Alright, hello, it's Narrative Tarot. I'm here with another video that's more like astrologically based. So, I just did a video about Uranus and Taurus, what is luxury, and then this one is just going to be kind of a short one too. I'm trying to get them under 10 minutes, but this one is going to be about Pluto in Aquarius, kind of what I feel like is coming as far as that. So we already know that Pluto is in Capricorn, right? But it's nearing its last leg. Within like the next like 4 or 5 years it'll be done being in Capricorn. Like it'll go into Aquarius and then retrograde and then it'll continue. So one of the things that I've been feeling about Pluto and Aquarius is that it's going to be very, very mental. It's going to be about purging and exercising the mental like never before, because I'm actually going to look up events of what has happened when Pluto was in Leo, because I kind of want to see not how full circle, but how that energy is going to play. So if you have any Leo placements, my moon is in Leo, so I can expect to get like just scoured for the next however many years Pluto's going to be in Aquarius. Like my sun's in Cancer, my Mercury's in Cancer, we've been dealing with that, like so if you have Leo placements, just get ready, because yeah. But Pluto in Aquarius, so why is Pluto in Aquarius kind of important? Okay, so Aquarius, yeah, it represents like the future, things like that, technology, I want to say like autonomy, authority, even though Capricorn is that. But I think people forget about the authoritarianist kind of like shadow of Aquarius. I mean, it's linked to Leo, so it's linked to, you know, a fire sign, fire and air, you know, representing elements that aren't necessarily like physical, corporal bodies, and grounded in a way that water and earth is. It sets the stage for, and I've been going over this as an African American, thinking about like lineage and generational trauma and stuff like that, and how the mind gets enslaved and then the body kind of follows. And so, you know, like I said, 2022, I think the year of the tiger is going to be like a lot of trauma, and we're getting to this point where there's a lot that needs to be worked on and released. Part of that is earth gridding and clearing earth in places. I'm going to have to go back. This is like an aside for me. Recently, yesterday, Friday, there was a huge storm and stuff like that, and trees were down and stuff like that. And so I'm gonna go and get a piece of wood from one of the fallen trees and start tapping into that, because I kind of feel like that energy needs to have communication. So I'm gonna do that. But back to the Aquarius stuff. So Pluto in Aquarius, I kind of feel like it's the fight for your mind. It's the fight for control over your mind. Aquarius being a sign that's very much about independence and very much about autonomy and authority and having one's sovereignty, is actually one of the signs that is quite corruptible, in that with that authority, people who have authority tend to encounter people that are either, one, going to push against them, which is kind of what Aquarius needs, or two, capitulate and fall in line with what they say. So we're entering an age of the authority when it comes to different things. If you're in the US especially, you can see how this is playing out when it regards to the news and health, in regards to what happened in 2020, the voices that are weighing in. It essentially is the rise of the expert, the guru, um, and there's an attachment about what's going on that I'm not quite settled with, but I'm very water earth dominant, and so I'm not really comfortable in majority air energy. Aquarius season this year was not really good for me, and it wasn't good for a lot of people. I feel like it was too much air, as far as planets, very dissociative, kind of stuff. When Pluto goes into Aquarius, you may start to see that more and more. You may start to see people splitting and fragmenting, especially if they've been under stress years prior. The breaking point will be most likely Pluto in Aquarius because it's about the mind. Be prepared for the fragile psyches to just implode. Be prepared for your own psyche to perhaps play tricks on you. And be prepared for people trying to play tricks on you, gain control of you. Pluto in Aquarius, I don't necessarily see as a time to do a lot of astral projecting without a lot of protection. You are going into an air sign with this, so it's transformation of the mind, and there is a propensity, I think, to leave the body a lot, or propensity to think that the body is secondary because you are an eternal soul. I can see gurus, cult-like behavior following that idea that because you are kind of a soul that is kind of forever alive, forever living, that the physical body is of little importance. And what I mean by that is not health-wise, like, oh, don't exercise and stuff like that, but that you should be seeking something that is non-corporal, very esoteric and etheric and things like that. The problem with this is that Aquarius is not Pisces, with the transcendent nature. And actually, because people talk about transcendence, I kind of realized when I looked at like Pisces and Virgo, is that having an identity actually helps you transcend things. One, because if you didn't have the identity, if you didn't exist in this corporal, like this body, you didn't have what you have, you weren't born what you're born with, there would be nothing transcend in the first place. And so you have to have an identity, owning you, which is Aquarius, owning your place in the world. Your place in the world, and then going forward. The thing with the Aquarius is it's very broad, you're dealing with upper houses, you're dealing with houses that deal with large groups of people, you're dealing with a planet that is dealing with large groups of people in terms of generational activity, and the diffusement of the borders between these things kind of starts to happen after you get to Capricorn. Sagittarius is I kind of want to say Sagittarius in my thinking of it is like the last, almost like self-directed planet, like self-directed sign, and then you get into Capricorn, which is very much, yes, it's about, you have a sun sign and you can be an individual with that, but the energy behind Cap is very much of societal kind of stuff, you know? Societal kind of things. So Pluto in Aquarius, there's a lot of energy of wanting to have control of the mind, wanting to have say. As a Leo, I know that this is one of the things I have to work on, being very opinionated and not allowing other people their thoughts. Air signs tend to be better at objectivity. However, there is a mental one-upsmanship that comes with being an air sign and even a fire sign that I don't think that people like to talk about. But there is a one-upmanship. There is an authoritarianness to air signs, and particularly with Aquarius. So part of that is because dealing with Leo, because Leo's like ego and stuff like that, but it's the sun. When you're a planet that represents kind of a manufactured light, there is a propensity, I think, to see on the other side the natural ability of the sun and to be a little bit jealous of that natural and to put on airs. And this is someone who's 11th house sun saying this. I'm Cancer sun, but I'm 11th house Cancer sun. There's a propensity to overcompensate, which is ultimately kind of what air signs and fire signs do when they're in shadow. Overcompensate. And so overcompensation often comes with authoritarianism and that no one else can have another opinion and things like that. Because I am quite authoritarian as a Leo moon. But I am developing in my North Node is in Sag, but in 4th house, which is so funny. But I leave it at, now I will speak my truth. I will speak how I see things, and I do like to zoom out. But I will ultimately say that your thoughts and your patterning and stuff like that will prove itself whether or not you're right or wrong in how your life turns out generally. And so it's not about having positive thoughts. It's just, if you say you're going to move in a certain direction, is what you're doing moving you in that direction? Like, those are questions you need to ask. So Aquarius is going to ask you, is what you think going to move you forward? Is what you're believing going to move you forward? Is what you're choosing to put your energy to, and to laud for its benefits actually beneficial? Pluto and Aquarius also, you'll see the rise, like I said, of like cult-like behavior, I kind of feel. Because although Aquarius is about individuals and bucking the system, I don't think Aquarius quite gets that rebellion is built into the system. You're dealing with like Capricorn before you, and Capricorn has pretty much thought of all of this stuff. So the idea that like rebellion isn't built into like the matrix or whatever, kind of is funny to me. It gets into the question of, does Saturn then allow Uranus to rebel? Is Uranus rebelling of its own natural accord, or is it being allowed to by Saturn? Those are questions to ask. But the rise of like cult-like behavior, the rise of people wanting to transcend the earthly body, so be prepared. I wouldn't be surprised if like mass SUICIDES happens. Mental health would be off the chain. Like, mental health crises would be off the chain. Like, authoritarianism, people will be in that shadow period of like Aquarius, I feel. And then it'll get better and better and better and better. But people will be more about, I kind of feel like facts over feelings, even though there's a whole emotional range that you can tap into. I don't know why people say facts over feelings or logical feeling. Like, there's a whole range. Like, what are you talking about? But yeah, it's like fighting for your mind, subliminals, symbology, iconography, things that are repetitively played, things that are put in front of you, and you have to be very conscious of this, because if you're not, your mind will be taken and you will be consumed by these things, and it'll be very hard for you to get out of it, right? And so the cool thing about Pluto and Aquarius is that you're supposed to figure out things about yourself, and then in the wider world and what you can bring to the earth and stuff like that. One of the lessons of Aquarius and of Uranus ruled like people is that rebellion is built into the system, one, and so you rebelling is actually a part of the whole plan of these certain things. That's why they're done, so you can rebel. It's like a switch that turns on for you, so that you can complete the entire wheel and then start anew. The other thing is that Aquarius ruled Uranus people have to understand that while you may rebel against attorney and things like that, it is a privilege to get older. It is a privilege to not remain teenager, because that's kind of what Aquarius represents to me. More like teenage energy, the energy where you need the larger perspective as you get older, which is a privilege to understand things and how they work and temper yourself, right? The last thing is also that, like I said, Aquarius is manufactured light, right? It's not natural light, it's manufactured. You know, somebody probably looked at the sun and was like, we need that shit indoors for when the shit is not out. And what happened? It's the mind and ingenuity and things like that, but understanding overcompensation, understanding that one of the greatest gifts that Aquarius and Leo, Sun and Uranus will always have is the ability to spark inspiration in others, and the ability to be mentored and be a mentee. And I don't think Aquarius spends enough time trying to be the mentee. I think they look at Leo and they think that they see that aspect, and then they rebel and try to be the guru, the detached guru, but there's things behind that, there's trauma behind that, there's overcompensation behind that, that leads them to do the things they do and can become very harsh. And I can see why people in general kind of get weird with air signs, but like Aquarius specifically, and Gemini, I can see Gemini. Libra, ain't nobody worried about y'all, but I can see that. I can see that. It's not to rag or anything like that. Like it is what it is. You're an air sign, okay, whatever. We all have air in our chart. Even if the house is empty, like there's still energy there. And so we all have those shadow aspects. But that's what I wanted to say. Pay attention. Oh, I didn't use that most of the time, child. But pay attention to language. I did a video about this, language filling in the gaps or something like that. Language will probably be very important. The time has come to kind of rebel in many ways and understand that you are sovereign and you can spend your money where you want to spend it. You don't have to do certain things and stuff like that. Or looking at ways to build with other people so that you can buck the trend of what is naturally set. That's another thing with Aquarius. Aquarius does get fed up with Capricorn, Saturn's bullshit and rebels. But like I said, how much of that is already built into the system is debatable. And there's some privileges of becoming older that you kind of see once you get past Saturn's BS. It forces you as a teenager to kind of, you start to see certain things. So you start to see your parents as human. You start to see human societies having a lot more machinations than just black and white. And Aquarius being fixed may not totally get that. There's more than just black and white. There are loads of shades of gray. Rebellion is one of those things that you have to be very careful with, because it is a responsibility to be rebellious. It is a responsibility because you're dealing with generational stuff, right? And then also, there was something else. I don't know. I don't know what that last one is. But there's a lot of energy. There's a lot of things. So taking control of your life, taking control of what you can, understanding, getting together with people. Oh, I've like heard this before that like revolutionaries like die like young and stuff like that. The whole point of Saturn coming before you is that the biggest revolutions will be when you put in hard work, and that actually being around to bring about the changes is actually important. Um, you know what I'm saying? Like Capricorn is Earth. It rules like physical reality. Like, you know, air signs don't represent really like a physical body here, and so Capricorn will be here long past Uranus if Uranus doesn't get the idea that that it cannot burn itself out. And that's another thing with the sun as well. The sun naturally is the sun, but it has a lifespan as well. It has a lifespan. And you have to use those resources while they're here. And then when they're not here, you have to figure something out. And that's where that ingenuity comes from. So, you know, Uranus, don't burn yourself out. Don't try to do too much. Don't get into your shadow side. But we will be seeing the shadow side of Pluto and Aquarius. But ultimately, the mind will be stronger. You'll understand you and the world. You'll understand the ways in which you rebel and the ways in which now, retrospectively, you can approach things differently so that you have a longer lasting influence on not just yourself but other people, which is what Capricorn begins to do. But nobody likes Capricorn or Saturn, so then you get Uranus. Alright, thank you for watching. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.